Welcome to another episode of Business Fumbles. So today's guest, we're going to jump right in and allow her to introduce herself. We got some good information coming to y'all today. So, please introduce yourself and your companies and explain to them a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Sheila. I love you and I love Tim.
Hi.
We're personal friends, but I'm Patty Swan and my brand name is Web Coach Live. However, I'm developing another brand right now, and that is I've written a book called Chosen Love Dynamics, and it's for step families and it's about for adoptees and foster care.
Oh, wow.
And the parents, even the grandparents who raise children now, as I went down this journey, I found out that these people don't need stories. There's tons of books about stories and illustrations, but there's nothing how to fix. So my book is all about how to fix these certain dynamics that play out in all of these families.
Wow.
Wow, that's good. So let's talk first about the web coach. What do that part of your entrepreneurship looks? What does that look like?
So Web Coach was developed by my husband Larry for me probably 12 years ago after I got out of the franchising business, because I used to own several tanning salons and I franchised them for many, many years, for over 20 years.
Okay.
But the tanning business is kind of dead now. And I got out right during 2008 to 2010 when the big recession was on.
Oh.
And so the next thing I wanted to do is I thought I wanted to be a business coach, right? But I found out that I really wanted to be a life coach. So I took and I got a couple of certifications and I went to school, but I really didn't ever do anything with it. But the logo, the brand, everything I had started to develop. And so it just kind of moved with me to the things that I've done. So I moved into network marketing thinking, that's just going to be an awesome thing. Okay. And for network marketers out there that are successful, good for you. I'm happy for you, but that's not my gig. And so then I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. And I kept looking and looking. And even through the pandemic, I just couldn't find myself, you know? And so then I found digital marketing. And I love digital marketing, and I've spent a lot of money on digital marketing courses. But then I found Legacy, the blueprint, and it literally changed my life. I feel like it gives you the best education. It gives you 4 streams of income right off the bat. And it changed my life because I was able to write a book. And, they always all the courses talk about the 3 pillars, right? And the 3 pillars are health and wellness, wealth, and relationships. And everybody tells you, find your niche down. Don't niche down. Seriously, you don't have to niche down. You can be broad and spacious, okay? Yeah. And I couldn't still find my niche, and Larry's like, what's wrong with you? And I just was in a slump because I was having to really change, okay? Now it had been like 10, 12 years, right? And so I just started studying, okay? Just studying social media, studying digital marketing. And then I told Larry, I'm going to write a book. And Larry goes, what? Oh, by the way, Larry's my husband. And I've been married to him for 42 years. Okay. And I said, I'm going to write a book about step families because I have 42 years experience in being a stepmom. And I also have a biological son. And so I know about the R's child. And the more I investigated this, the more I found out the foster parents have the same problem. Adoptive parents have the same problem. So I just got into it and decided to write the book. So now we're getting ready for the release date is September 8th. The books are being delivered. You can get it in softbound, or you can even download it if you're a Right Now person. And we're actually going to have should I quit talking?
No? Go ahead.
Oh, no, don't mind us. You're good.
I know how to do it. So.
Okay. So we're actually going to have coffee in the mornings for those who can join our book club. And then we're also going to have happy hour evenings for those who work. That doesn't mean you have to drink. That doesn't mean that you have to drink coffee. That means we want you to join us in our school community, SKOOL community. There'll be a link on my website. And
Is this
it's
virtual?
just going to be, yes, it's going to be, but
virtual.
I'm not
Okay,
going to
okay.
allow a lot of people at the same time. Okay.
Mhm.
And I understand that we could have ex-wives in there. I'm not going to allow men at this time. We'll have to see how that all goes.
I want to know why. Why
Okay.
can't men come?
Because, I've really been
They're
studying
still
them,
parents.
and they need their own group. So I may just start a
That's
man's
fair.
group.
That's
okay?
fair.
Okay,
That's
that's fair.
And they can still do coffee, okay, and they can still do cocktails because they're very interesting because their dynamics and what plays out for them is so different than a woman. Okay, so I kind of might just have two different groups, but the groups, let's say, I'm going to let the ex-wife and the new wife be in the same group. I'm going to try and sort that out if I
So
can.
what you're trying to do is to create, because my children are from my first husband. And so then when I got married again, he had to, so it's sort of like mingling a family. But even with my first husband, he was married before I married him. And the strangest thing is that we were always so close. Like, even after I got divorced and he got divorced, I remarried and he remarried. And me and him was still best friends. Like, we would talk all the time. And then the funny thing is I became close with his new wife. And when things would happen, she would call me and me and her would be talking and he'll be like, "That's my friend, not your friend."
I love that.
But I think that with what you're doing is needed. But I do feel that in order for it to work, there has to be a maturity level from both parties.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to be sort of mature for it because
Yup.
you have a lot of women today, they take on this attitude like, well, he's mine now and he needs to focus on me and he needs to focus on my children and he needs to do that. That's immature.
Oh, yeah, the jealousy comes in like you can't believe, okay? And every morning I sit and I'll be reading Larry things from the groups, and I'm like, listen to this. And I mean, they don't know how to function with each other. They don't know how to have peace with the ex-wife, not be jealous of the ex-wife, okay? She was the wife at one time, but now you're number one, and you need to be able to sit your husband down and have a conversation with him. Hence, I do talk about it in Chosen Love, but I went ahead and I just wrote something that you'll only be able to pull down, okay? And it's partnering versus parenting, because I see that is a huge dynamic that plays out, okay? So, for instance, I'm just going to give you a story that happened in one of the groups the other day. A woman was complaining because here she married this man and they have a blended family and the kids stay with them 4 days a week. And when the kids are visiting him, the mom actually sends over food from Instacart for the kids, but she doesn't send it for the other kids, just for her kids.
Oh.
Okay. Now, and then so the other woman's very upset, right? And it's one child. And you're telling me that she can't afford another $5 or $10 at McDonald's, okay? Because that's what she's sending over. I don't know, because I don't eat at McDonald's. What it costs. But I mean, this is like mean stuff that goes on, right? Now, I would be sitting my husband down, giving him a reality check real quick, okay? But I would do it in a loving and kind manner. And that's what I think really needs to happen is these parents need to come together. Because, like, you were good friends with your ex.
Yeah, I was always good friends with
So
him.
I never had a child with my ex, okay? But Larry had two. I would have Larry's ex-wife over for cocktails on Friday night, okay? And so even through the custody battles, because we did have a custody battle, through everything, I always tried to stay in a really good relationship with the ex-wife. And I was never threatened by her, okay?
Yeah.
And just so you know, my husband married her twice. So if I should have been threatened by her, but I wasn't, you know?
Well,
Wow.
I think in relationships, I mean, I guess this is a good segment to discuss those things, because in my opinion, and me actually having the experience of having a husband, having children from another woman, having been in that situation twice, because my husband now, he has kids. And I just feel like, number one, it's a maturity level. Number two, he it's something that I say to people all the time. If you meet a guy and or this person and you are planning to marry him, but you learn that he has an ex-wife and he has children with that ex-wife, the smartest thing you can do is speak to that ex-wife.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if they have a bad relationship, even if they are battling and things are bitter, one thing she's not going to do, she's not going to lie. She's going to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Her truth might come off a little, harsh because she's mad, but she's going to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times if you listen, and while that person is venting, if you listen, you're going to find out more than what you need to know.
Yeah.
You're going to find out more, because when they're angry, they talk, they tell on him, but they also tell on themselves.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
I
you just
agree.
have to listen.
Yeah.
And so I've told a lot of people, even friends within, different congregations or whatever,
Yeah.
I will tell them, like, especially if that ex is a part of one of those congregations.
Yeah.
That is the number one thing that you should do. The number one thing. And when I dated my husband now, the first thing that I did was, I spent a lot of time with his family, his mom and with his sisters. I saw how he interacted with people. And he asked me, like, why was that important?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's going to tell me something that maybe you're not comfortable
Yeah.
Yeah.
at telling me.
Yeah.
And then, you sort of look at things like, there was a lot of things about my husband. It came out because of me, how I observed things. Like
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
time he got a card from his mom. I never forget it. And I read the card and I said, why is she so proud of you? And he was like, because I'm her son. No, I'm a parent, and I'm not going
That
to.
might happen in Tim's
right.
life.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not going to write a note to my kid and say I'm so proud of you unless they've done something.
Yeah.
To deserve that. And at that point, we wasn't married, but he just looked at me and he goes, wow, your mind is sort of weird. He's like, the way you think and how you like this stuff come out, it's like, but I think it's a good platform to have, because a lot of parents, they just don't know that if they work together and if they band together, the children will come out a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
They'll come
balance.
out a
Yeah.
lot
Mhm.
better.
And feel loved.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
the
yeah,
children
Mhm.
don't, this is what people don't understand when they get divorced, right? Is, and remarried, is that the children didn't ask for this. They don't want a new mom or they don't want a new dad. They were happy in the, regardless of what was going on in the house. That's what they know. That's their mom, that's their dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't ever quit loving those people,
Mhm.
right? So then you bring them into a new household. In my case, they were 50-50 and then they were full-time with me.
Mm-hmm.
But even looking back on that, okay, you have to have the other parent involved.
Oh, yes.
So, like in my case, when after the custody battle, the biological mother was not involved, and I would have to, even though there was times where the kids had to go for a visit, I would have to beg them to go. Okay, like I would have to promise some things, and I would say, she's your mother. You have to go visit your mother. And of course they would go, and then they would have a great time, okay? But it was because they had security or whatever was going on. I mean, I don't want to give myself too much credit here, but I do think that I raised 3 amazing sons. And I actually think I did it more than Larry and the biological mom did, okay? I'm just going to say it because I say it all the time. I do think I was a good parent. I was hands-on because I could. Because I owned my own business, so I could take my kids to work with me, okay?
Yeah.
I could do whatever I wanted. And I think that I was just had a really good situation, but I don't think today many people have a good situation. I think they get married or they have kids out of wedlock, and then they get married or they get in these relationships and they live together and they're just trying to blend these families, but there's really no commitment, because unless you marry and you actually sign your name on the dotted line for that license, there's really no commitment. And so these kids are just being pushed from one relationship to another. And when you start in your 20s, by 30 you can't believe what's going on. By 40 I'm amazed, and then I see these women in their 50s and 60s who actually committed and were in great relationships. Whether really adoption too is another area where it is so heartbreaking, because these parents not only just get babies, but they'll adopt small children that have maybe been in the foster system, and they give these kids everything, so much love, and all these kids want is the biological parent. And that, okay, I'm sorry, but that is really hard, because some of the stuff I read, and I will cry at night. And then Larry will be like, why are we crying? And I'm like, because some of this stuff is like gut wrenching, okay? To what these kids really want and what they're getting, okay? And then some really great adoptive parents, they'll be like, it doesn't matter. I just want my child to be happy. And they want to embrace the biological parents. And then what happens is the biological parents, when they find them, reject the child.
Yeah.
And that is gut-wrenching. And then foster care, oh my goodness. Okay.
Well, you know, when it comes to foster children and them wanting, all they want is their biological parent, I don't think that they want the biological parent. They're trying to get rid of that feeling that they are not worthy, they are not wanted.
Right.
Because they're going to always look at, well, why did my mom not want me? Or why did this happen to me? And especially like when they're snatched from their parents because the parents was neglecting the children and not doing the right thing. Sometimes when you're young, you don't know that. That's what they've been they've been doing that since they were little kids. So it's normal to them. And then you got this agency coming and saying, she's a bad parent and we're taking you, and so now they're like, I just want to go back to my mom. And then sometimes I have to be honest, sometimes the foster parents make it even worse because of the way that they treat them. And if you have a lot of foster parents out there, they are only foster parents to get the money.
Yes, absolutely.
I was going to chime in on that because my family did foster care for a number of years. And we did the short term and not the long term where you have them for like years at a time because they're very far displaced and they're trying to find an adoptive family. We did the short term where typically those kids are probably going to go back to their parents. There's just something crazy going on or whatever it is that the parents need to figure out.
Right.
There was one that stood out to me, a foster sister of mine. It was funny because the reason her and her little brother were in foster care was because of a dispute going on between her parents. And it got to the point where obviously the law had to get involved and they were like, this is not safe for your children. So they got sent to us. And my parents are good parents. They took care of them. They showed them love. I would read bedtime stories to her all the time. I wasn't much older. I think she was like, I must have been 14 or 13. She must have been like 8 or 9. But I still would read bedtime stories to her. And at one point, she told me, she was like, I thought my family was normal. I thought the arguing, I thought the fights, I thought the craziness was normal. I was used to it.
Yeah.
And now I see a healthier version of a family.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't, like, am I wrong? All I want is my parents.
Right.
All I want is to go back home. I was like, and I didn't make her feel bad at the time. I remember, like, I couldn't understand it. I was 13. Like, how would I understand? But I remember going, being like, you still want to go back home despite the fact that it's a little crazy. And every kid, and I believe this too, every kid believes it's gonna get better.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
As long as I'm with mom and dad, it could get better.
Yeah, and they want that. They want it.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So here's a quick little story. So my parents were totally dysfunctional. I started living with my grandma part-time by the age 2. And my grandma on my mom or my dad's side, my other grandma was fantastic. She stayed very active with me. By age 5, I was full-time with my grandmother. And I didn't see my parents for years. I mean, they were in and out of my life, okay, like you can't even believe, until my grandmother passed away when I was 13. Mm-hmm. Then they came around a little bit, okay, but they're still dysfunctional human beings. Now, I didn't necessarily want to live with them, but I wish they would have been more active in my life. I wish they would have given me a phone call. I wish they would have cared about my grades. I wish they would have gone to parent-teacher conferences, had some kind of activity in my life. Mm-hmm. So with my stepkids, I really tried to be active with them where Larry and his ex were missing, because I knew how important it was, right? Mm-hmm. And even with my own son. But I think it's really different because the ours kid we haven't even really talked about, and the ours kid really feels like, I know this now because he's, a mature man having his own family. But when they were the dynamics at home, you don't realize that's the kid that wants to keep the whole family together no matter what, right?
You got one, always have one of those.
Okay. And he still tries. And right now, I'll be totally honest, we're not all together, but we are trying at the best of our abilities to what we can do. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the dynamic that plays out, right?
I think it has a lot to do with the individual itself, because my mom, it was 9 of us. Okay.
Wow.
Well, 10, but
that's a lot.
My mom had 9 kids when she was pregnant with my closest brother. My father told her that he was going to the store to get bread and he never came back.
Wow.
Wow.
So we were raised with no father, but my mom, of course, was very, very tough, and the way that she raised us, it was very, very tough. When I got into high school, and that's why I say it's got to be the individual itself, because by the time we were going from 8th grade into, high school, me and my brother, we found all of our family on my father's side. Now, all of my siblings, they wanted to get to know him after he called and we all talked and I talked and everybody talked. I was content with just knowing, oh, okay, that's you. This is my dad. This is who, and my mom never, ever told us the story, what he did. She never said anything negative. We had to develop our own relationship with him throughout our life. Well, I say that it's the individual because all of my sisters, they all went down there and they built the relationship. Some of them, the older ones, moved down there to be close to him to build that relationship. I had to go down there when he got sick. And everybody, when he got sick with cancer, we all went down there And I was the only one that had this this attitude, like, dude,
I don't want.
like I just had a baby. What are we doing? Like,
yeah.
I don't want to sit here and have no discussion.
Yeah.
I want to, do this. And it was such a problem where my brother's like, I'm calling mom, and then they called my mom, and she's like, I'm married, having children, and my mom's like, okay, you're going to be respectful,
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I'm being respectful, I'm just tired or whatever. We got through that. I was content with that.
Mm-hmm.
I was content with that. When he called, everybody ran and they talked to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was that one that was like, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And it never bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
When he died,
Mm-hmm.
everyone got together and said, we have to go down here to, Baltimore for his funeral. And so my mom says, yeah, all of you guys go down there or whatever. And I was like, I'm not going. And my mom's like, what do you mean you're not going? I was like, Mom, I understand that you raised us a certain way, but that has nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
His life had nothing to do with me. I didn't feel that void. I'm not that person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
know him. I don't know what he why it's necessary for me to go down. So I'm going to make the choice, because I'm an adult, I'm married, I'm off on my own. I'm going to make the choice that no, I'm not going,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know him. And it's not that I'm not sad that he died. It's just not something that I needed. And everybody else needed that. I never needed that, to the point that when he died, he had things. And they were like, well, he left things for each one of you or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And I told his wife, well, I'm not coming down there. You can take whatever it is.
Mm.
I don't know the man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you guys want from me.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt a void
Right.
with him gone that my sisters and my brothers them felt. I never felt that void.
And you know what they felt? They felt guilt.
Yeah.
They felt guilt. And I talk about that in the book. There is so many kids that's why they want to know the biological parents,
Mm-hmm.
is it's based on guilt, because they're afraid to love anybody else coming in that may take the place.
Mm-hmm.
They're afraid to love. And so they have all this guilt. But you didn't have that guilt, because you were like, good
Are you
to
one
go.
of the youngest, Sheila?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
that also kind of tracks.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah.
It has.
Well,
a lot
my
to do
brother,
with
he
the
was
young-
younger than me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and he
But-
still had.
and he still needed
Yeah.
that. He still needed that. And my family always say, she's always been that way.
Mhm.
It's almost
The
like,
independence.
I don't know what it was. I think that, like I tell my mom all the time, is that one thing that I learned from her is that the way that you are as an individual,
Mhm.
it reflects your children.
Right.
It is a true
Absolutely.
reflection of your children. And she's like, no, that's not, you're way different than the other ones.
Mhm.
I said, yeah, I'm way different than my other sister. It's 6 girls.
Mhm.
So I'm way different from those 6 girls. But out of the 6 girls, all of us have overpowering,
Right.
Yeah.
personalities.
Yeah.
No man can really deal with us.
I love it.
Like,
I love
no,
it. I love
I'm
it.
serious. So, and I told my mom, like, name one of them where they're married. My sisters them are married, but they're tough.
Yeah.
It's hard to let that man lead.
Yeah.
Because we got the attitude. You
No, that is true. It is true.
Where do we get it from?
Yeah.
Where did we get it
Strong
from?
women.
Mama.
You get it from
For
strong
sure.
women.
Yeah.
To the point where when I got out of high school, from the time I went into high school until the time I got out of high school, you know what my mom would tell me?
What?
Don't get in a car with nobody unless you got money. Don't.
Wow.
You have to be able to find your way home.
Yeah.
You have to be
Mhm.
able to get on the bus. You have to be able to get you a cab.
Mhm.
If you don't have the money, don't get in a car.
And that's
Why
still
would she
true
tell us
today.
that?
That's
Be
still true
self-sufficient.
today.
Figure it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't mooch off. Don't use other people.
Right. And
Right.
I would look at her and be like, why? I see other kids, they get in the car with
And
their friends or whatever. Why
independence.
can't I do it?
Yeah.
Independence plays into that too.
Yeah. There's
Yeah,
a little
so
bit of that.
Because you're taking care of your own safety, your own self.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that made all of the girls to have a very strong personality when it came to marriage. I seen my sisters them like being over their house, and I wasn't married yet, being young, and he's saying, oh, like, no, you're gonna do this. They're arguing, and I'm seeing my sisters them to the point one of them I seen jump on a couch with a broom, like hitting them with the
oh my god.
But that's
and
what
the
happens
fight is
today.
about nothing,
right?
Yeah.
And and I've seen all of my sisters be that way with their husband. It's like that husband is loving them, but they're fighting for a position within that house.
And
that's not the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
No, that goes to like what happens in childhood. It does shape you a lot. What you see, how you have to be, and stuff like that, for sure. And I would say too, I kind of relate to you. We come from a similar cloth about the whole like not. Like if someone didn't have anything to do with your life, yet on paper they're an important person.
Yeah.
I struggle with that. Like, I get why you're saying I should care.
Yeah.
But I don't feel that. It's not there.
It's not there.
And it's up to the individual, because I asked, are you one of the younger ones? It makes sense. You didn't really deal with the dad. You didn't really see him. He didn't have an effect on your life much.
Right.
And so I think about that like with my grandpa. I was never close to my grandfather, and everyone, my family's from New York, they're all super close to grandpa. When he passed away, everyone's like, oh, we have to care. When he was getting sick, my dad's like, we got to go up there. We didn't have the money to get plane tickets for a family of 5, so we drove up there, and I was so against all of that. I was like, I don't see the point to this. And my dad's like, why don't you care so much about grandpa? He's your grandpa. I was like, Dad, we moved to Vegas when I was 7 years old. I don't remember grandpa. I never knew him. But it's up to the individual. My little brother loves the family.
Yeah.
He was like, Tim, you got to go see grandpa. Like, we have to. He would take grandma to the doctor's office, which one of my grandmas moved out here to Vegas. He would take her to the doctor's office. Some kids have that. I would kind of, I don't want to call my brother guilty, but they have that familial guilt of like, this person, I owe them something. I don't want to let other people take that role. Yeah. They deserve this role. I have to give that to them. I want them to have this. So I'm going to invest in making a relationship with them, even though it's late in life, even though like all this. And I myself, I'm like, I made it this far. I didn't need to do all that. I was like, I'm good. And so like I think it does have to deal with the individual as well. Everyone's going to handle that identity issue differently.
But
absolutely.
And I think it's good that you're talking about that guilt, because that's telling your audience, hey, it might be associated with that guilt. Right. How do you feel about that, knowing that you put it there and it's a strong possibility?
Yeah. So I do think guilt has a lot to do with it, but here's the number one thing that kills every parent. Doesn't matter. You're not the real parent. And I really address that in the book.
Okay.
Because stepkids say this because they want to manipulate or control, or it's guilt because they want to love that other parent so much, okay? They feel the guilt that's been brought upon them for something that they can't control, right? In foster parents or foster kids, they say that to their foster parents, like, you can't even believe, well, you're not my real parent, so you can't tell me what to do. Okay. Okay. So there's some disrespect, but again, I really think it comes down to guilt because they want that biological connection. And then with adoption, it's like, I'm adopted now, so you're not my real parent, so please help me find my biological parents. And what this does to the parent is like, so I've had grandkids say that to me, you're not my real grandma. Okay. I am their grandma. Okay. I don't care what anybody says. Because what people have to understand, it's not always about blood. It's the person who shows up for you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That really, really shows up
They make
to
it
you.
about the blood, though.
However, I do think that there's times where the dynamics are just not going to play out the way the adult or the child wants it to. Okay. It's just not. And so you have to learn how to cope. You have to have the coping skills. And that's why I did the book. I didn't do the book. The book's not full of stories about my family. Okay. It's not about my personal journey. The book is about what I see in all these different families and how these are steps and tips that you can take to help correct. So, for instance, when a child tells you that, you can say, yes, but I'm your special friend and I'll always be there for you and I'll show up for you. I'm not trying to take your parents. You know,
I didn't use
that.
Well,
well, neither did I.
Because my stepkids,
Right.
when they were with me, you're not my mom.
Right.
You know, and when they said that to me, it was like, what did you say?
Right. It's
Oh,
disrespectful.
you're not my mom, or you can't tell me what to do. And then I would go and make them do it. And then after they done it, and I was like, see, that's what not your mom made you do. Now what are you gonna do? Because when you're in my house,
Right.
I am your mom.
Yeah.
I'm your mom. I'm whatever.
Caretaker,
And I'm
everything.
going to, like, do whatever I need. And then to the point where sometimes she would get on there and be like, I'm gonna call my mom, and she call her mom crying, and I would give her the phone. Call her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's she gonna do?
Yeah.
Right.
Because what we just what just transpired in my house, it can transpire outside too.
Yeah.
So call your mom.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do it.
I think
know?
when it comes to children too, like, not to get too psychological with it, but I feel like all of us, every human, we want to find a place where we fit in. We want to find where we belong.
Yes.
We want to see where we feel like this is right. And when things don't feel right, I don't fit in here in this school, in this group, with these friends, with this family, your brain tries to come up with reasons why you feel that way. You go like, well, they're different. Well, I'm adopted. Well, they're not my real grandparent. Stuff like that. You come up with that. And so then when something comes up and they tell you to do something you don't like, instead of accepting it and going, I don't like it, but this is someone I identify with. This is somewhere I belong. I've got to change. I've got to accept this. They go, it's easier to not. It's easier to go like, actually, my real mom would never do this to me.
This. Right.
You're going to have to deal with that. And it's like, no. You're in for a rude
and
awakening
that's how
when you wake
I was. And when they would call their mom and they would tell, and they would be crying on the phone. And then she made me do this and she made me do that. And then I would take the phone and I would be like, this is what I did and this is why. And then she said, okay, give her the phone back. And then after that, the parent would be like, you're there. You do what she tells you to do. I'm not there. So she's going to protect you. And let me tell you, by the time that those kids were like, because when I married my first husband, they were little. They were young kids. And his ex had a daughter that was not my husband's. But he still took care of her, and she called him dad. So when we picked up his, we picked hers up too. And they went on all of our vacations. They did everything with us. And our relationship, I built a relationship with the parent where it was so close that like sometimes their dad would be like, oh, well, I'm going to take them to this area. And in Chicago, you got good areas and you got bad areas. And I was like, no, they not going. They not going. And he would be like, well, I won't take your kids because you don't want your kids to go, which was his too. But I'm going to take those two. I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And he's like, oh, yes, I am. No, you're not. And then it got to the point where his, my stepkids, he would be like, come on. And they'd be looking at him like, dude, I'm not moving.
Yeah.
She said I can't go.
Yeah.
And then they would call their mom because they're confused because their dad is telling them to go and I'm telling them not. And they would call their mom and say, dad's saying that he's finna take us this place and mom says that we can't go. And she says, well, where's he trying to take you? And then they would be like, well, we don't know, but mom says that we can't go. And she would be like, well, she said you can't go, you can't go. Because I know she's trying to protect you. He's taking them in the area where there's drive-by shootings, all kinds of stuff. No,
unsafe.
They're not going. And, it got to a point where when he said, hey, I need to go over in this area. Can the kids go with me? And I'm like, where you going? And he would tell me, and I was like, no, they can't go. And he would be like, okay, guys, I'll be back. Y'all can't go. But it took some time. You just got to put your foot down because I told him, I said, if you leave out the door with them, I'm going to call the police.
Right.
Because my job is to protect the kids.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to be tough. Do I feel like I was wrong in that matter? Yeah. Because he should have been able to take the kids wherever he wanted to, just like I had the opportunity to take them places. But my places that I chose was safe and his wasn't. But it took, it took like maybe a year or so.
I think
that
it's
he turned
interesting that you
around.
brought something up about mom.
Yeah.
You would be amazed at how many kids nowadays, including my own, except for our kid, my stepkids never called me mom. I gave a name I was Gadgie, okay, from Chip and Dale. You know the cute little mouse, Gadget Love.
Oh, Gadget! Oh, I
I'm
forgot
Gadget
about
Love,
her. Yeah.
okay, because they were that young, so they could relate, right? And so many kids today don't like that mom. So I think you did an awesome job there because they need that sense. And when they don't know what to call you, right? So to this day, they still call me Gadgie or Gadget Love, and their kids call me that, right?
My husband's kids right now that I'm married to, they call me mom.
But
Oh, really?
His
my
kids call me
stepkids,
mom.
no way.
Yeah.
No way.
No, they call me mom. And one thing with my husband now, okay, when we came here, this was all new because my family was back in Chicago and everything. And he had 2 kids that was here. And when he had problems with his children, because they came and stayed with us when we got here, when he had problems with them and he was trying to discipline them, I never forget it. I told him, I said, okay, the 2 parents needs to sit down and come to an agreement, right? When she came over, their mom came over, I took my kids and we left.
See,
And they sat in my house while me and my kids went and did things because that's something that they had to figure out because they didn't have little kids. These kids had already
developed their
Being
minds.
grown.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
developed their minds. So it's going to take the whole family to try to straighten this out. And when I was leaving, I never forget it. My husband says, "Where are you going?" And I was like, "I think that you guys need privacy. You need to be able to say how you feel. And they need to know that this home that they live in is a home that all parents that work with them is free to come. I'm not threatened by her at all, and I don't think that something is going to happen when I leave. But I think that you guys need to work this out between you. You don't need nobody outside because even though I love the kids and I'm going to raise them, I'm an outsider.
Right.
So you guys deal with this, come to a conclusion, and then when I come back, you say, this is what we decided, and I work with you guys to make sure that happens. And I remember talking to family members and friends, and they were like, you left your home for another woman to come in? And I was like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Those are his kids. You have to do anything. And the funny part about it is when I had problems with my kid, my husband would not let my ex come in.
Oh, wow.
I had to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
we had to go to
and that's
a restaurant.
more of a dynamic we see today.
Yeah.
Okay. In really all the groups that I'm in and I'm like reading their stories, I'm like, wow. And that's why I didn't want to do a storybook. I actually wanted to do a solution book because I see so many families now in crisis, right? Just not the kids, okay? But how this book even came about wasn't because of my own experience. Because I do legacy, I was supporting one of my friends on a live on TikTok, and she hadn't come on yet. And for some reason on the what's it called? The YP page? What is it?
FYP for you page?
Yeah. The For You page. This woman came through and she was just crying. And I couldn't believe that somebody would take to social media and be that way, right? I mean, I was totally blown away. Well, I see it all the time now. But I mean, you have to remember, this was like over a year ago. And I couldn't believe somebody could do that. And then she was talking about her family. Then I understood the dynamics that she was talking about. She was talking about her stepkids and what they had done to her and everything. And then I started going up and searching, right? Because I was waiting for the live. So I started searching and I couldn't believe just on TikTok, millions of moms, of dads, just not step parents, adoptees, fosters, all so emotional. And then the kids are on there, okay? But I'm not even getting involved with the kids, okay? I'm just sticking to the parents. Then I couldn't even believe it. So then I did a deep research on Google and on YouTube. And then I went to Facebook and I couldn't believe what I found, okay? And then it was just something that I had to write about because I knew it. So I'd found my niche, right? But to see these people is so, their stories, and you're a success story, okay? I even think I'm a success story, regardless, okay?
Yeah. I'd say so.
But I think that these families are so in trouble, and this is why I'm going to do a series of 3 books addressing what I see in the groups and in my own community, and doing the coffee and the happy hour times, so that they can really share their stories and feel like there's a safe place. And then every month I'm going to have a speaker that specializes in, either adoption issues or foster issues or step family issues, come in and try and help these families.
So real quick, how does your book help them? I know that it requires them to do the work, but what's in your book that's going to help them to build a better relationship? Sort of like open up and be a little bit more acceptable.
So I think it's chapter 3 in Chosen Love that talks about the pushback, okay? Because first of all, we talk about chosen love. Chosen love is a theory. It's been out there for years, okay? It's somebody who chooses to show up for you regardless of their family or their friends. Whatever they are to you, it's somebody who shows up. That's the theory. Then there's books on chosen love on practically every subject, okay? But the reason I chose Chosen Love is for my kids and for my own and for everyone else, but it's the dynamic. So instead of reading a story, let's just take chapter 3, for instance, why kids push back, why you have a difficult time, because you don't know what age you're bringing them in, right? An infant's not going to push back, but an infant does know you're not the mom or the dad, okay? And science has now proven that the second you conceive, the mother conceives, because I'm doing some research right now for the next book. We're going to plug
a series.
It's a series.
Actually, speaking of plugging, did you want me to? I see you have the books there. I could display them on the table for everyone to see if you'd like. Hang on one second.
Okay, now you got to remember this one right here is just a pull down, so it doesn't have the shiny.
Okay.
I'll hold it up too. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Look at you, Tim, being all fancy. Yeah. So they talk about the pushback, right? I talk about the pushback and why kids push back, and then tips that you can do to communicate with your child, okay? Because this or this or this is happening, okay? They're rebelling against you. You're not my mom. I don't have to listen to you. You're not my dad. You're not my real grandpa. Whatever it is, okay? Whatever they're saying to you. Sometimes they don't even want to talk to you. They don't even want to. I mean, some of these foster kids won't even look you in the eye.
But they're
because they're so
too.
scared, right?
They're suffering inside.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And so the pushback gives you tips to get them to open up to you, okay? And then gives you a journal that you can reflect back on how well the tip worked with the child. And so it gives you lots of suggestions to help with that particular area. Yeah. So then, that's just one of the many areas that we talk about. Another thing is how they like to split the parents apart. So that's where parenting and partnering come in. And I was going to do a whole great big thing on it. And then I just decided I'm going to add a little bit more because I see that's such a big thing. And it's just going to be a download on the site. That's a little bit extra that's in the book because these kids are professionals at knowing how to manipulate the whole situation. So we have to teach.
Our society is creating that mastery.
Yes.
Because of the things that they see. Okay. My way of parenting my kids was...
No, say it.
You can go ahead.
You go.
Okay, so when I was raising my children, because of me having the knowledge that I did, biblically,
Yeah.
mine's was that, okay, if you embarrass me, the only way you're going to get how I feel is you got to feel the same way.
Right.
Okay.
So that's how I sort of like raised them. Like, if I knew that they stole out of the store, right? And I was like, oh, so you went to the store and you stole even though you weren't supposed to. And in their mind, they're like, yeah, I did it and I got away with it. And so then I would be like, okay, let's go. And I would take them back to the store.
Right.
And I would say to the manager, they got something to tell you. So then they're looking at me like, are you serious? Yeah. You need to tell him what you was in here for.
Yeah.
And then I started counting 1, 2, because they know once I got to 5 what was going to happen. So they were like, oh, we came in and we stole. And he was like, oh, you did? Yeah, we stole. And this is what we took. And so then I said, okay, now you have to pay for what you stole, right? The whole thing is after the effect. Because now we're in the car and they're crying like, I can't believe you did that. We got away with it. And now we had to go back and we had to tell them that we stole. This is so embarrassing. I was like, imagine how I feel.
Yeah.
Because I'm raising kids that I say that don't steal and I don't steal.
Right.
Exactly. And then you go and steal and now look at how I feel. You see how I feel? That doesn't feel good, does it? So there was one situation that happened with my stepdaughter. Her mom got married and she was that way with the stepfather. She was creating all kinds of havoc in that house. And she would call her dad and her, my ex-husband, that's one thing, he loved his kids. Now he gonna fight to death for his kids.
Yeah.
And she would call him and he would be like, I'm going over there. And I'm like, no, you're not. Not going over there. That man is over there. He's paying the bills or whatever. You're not going to disrespect the house. So it had gotten really bad, and her mom didn't know what to do. And I said, okay, me and my husband, we're on our way, and just pack her stuff and we're going to pick her up. And so when we picked her up, my husband gets to the house and I said, you go in and you take the suitcase. Me and her are going to take a ride. I'm going to take her and get some ice cream. So he says, okay. And we get in the car and we're driving. And I said, I want to tell you a story. And I said, this story is about a little girl and her name was Selfish. Okay. That's what her name was.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I said, and so let me tell you about Selfish. This is what was going on. So Selfish had a mom, and Selfish, loved her mom and respected her mom. And then one day the mom, she found a person that she was compatible with and she wanted to be happy, because that's what women do. They want companionship. So she finds this person, and this person is doing everything, is giving her all of the money, what it needs to keep that house going. He gives her money to buy Miss Selfish everything that she wants. And he does everything for the mom, to get Miss Selfish everything that she wants. So one day, Miss Selfish decides that she doesn't want that person there no more. And it's understandable because that person is strange. She doesn't know him. All she knows is that the mom likes him and she doesn't. Yeah. So Miss Selfish does everything to run him away. But now Miss Selfish is now growing up and she becomes an adult. And Miss Selfish leaves the home to create her own home. And she's all happy because she found that same type of companion in her house. And now she's happy, but now she looks back at her mom, and her mom is all alone. Because Miss Selfish ran away, the person that was going to be that for her when you grew up and you left. Yeah. And so in the middle of me telling the story, she's just crying and crying. And I said, what are you crying for? Well, you're calling me selfish. I said, no, this is a story. You're not selfish because your name is not selfish. This is a story. And I want you to really pay attention to the story. So we went through this, she got her ice cream, and we get back to the house. And she goes to her dad and she says, take me back home. And she goes back home. And her mom ended up getting a divorce. But her behavior changed, because she had to think about it.
Yeah,
sometimes
no pushback.
Kids need to understand that, yeah, this is hard. You're young and it's hard because now you got someone strange living with you, and then it's not your father and it's not someone that you're familiar with. But remember, you're going to grow up and you're going to build your own life. So if you're not selfish, you're going to think about mom and you're going to think about dad, because when you're gone, at least they're going to have someone to fill that void when you're not there. Because when we drop you off to college, when we walk you down the aisle, when we are doing all of this as a parent, why the heck you think we're crying?
Right, exactly.
Because now we're losing something. We're not going to have what we are used to. So that's why we're crying. But throughout your life and you growing up as children, adopted, no matter what it is, you're not thinking about that.
No, they don't.
You're not thinking about that.
At our house, we had what's called an open door policy. So our kids at any time could come and they could say, I want to exercise open door policy. So if they had done something wrong, if something was bothering them, they wanted to discuss it, we discussed it, okay, which worked really well. Now, when I didn't like something, I would say, okay, everybody around the kitchen table right now. Okay, and they knew exactly what they meant, and they went there, right? And then we could have open door policy, because whatever was going on, because we didn't allow screaming and yelling in our house at all. My husband's not even a fighter. You guys know he's a pussycat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he don't scream.
Yeah.
I mean,
he could get mad, but he doesn't scream. He keeps calm. Yeah,
he's a very, very calm man. And I that's one of the greatest things I love about him, is because he's so calm. Me, on the other hand, might get a little hot-headed. We don't know, though.
We love you. We still love you, Betty. It's okay.
I mean, hey, it is what it is. And I own it. And it is what it is. And I think I have a lot more self-control now, And, but yeah, we would use that table as resolving issues. And it worked really, really well for our families. So I put this in the book, and then I looked for other ways that could really help families open that communication. Because I think if you can have communication within the marriage, communication within the children, and I love the Miss Selfish story. I think it's awesome. Because the kids don't think about what the parents' needs are ever. Okay.
Never.
They're only thinking about their needs. And you can sit and you can buy kids everything you want. You can be the most materialistic step parent or parent, okay, that you want to be. But in the end, the only thing they want is love and security. Okay? But kids will, love all the new stuff. I'll never forget, this is a true story. Real quick, okay? My two stepsons, Levi hadn't even been thought of. Okay, that's our kid. And, but I was with my two stepkids, and they had never had two pairs of shoes before. Thinking, what's wrong with these parents? Okay, like I take him to Payless and I buy him two pairs of shoes, right? We go to Kmart, because Kmart was around in those days, and
you
hey,
can find anything at Kmart back in the day. I remember that.
Okay, and I bought him a whole bunch of clothes, and I mean, because I didn't think about it, because I was tired of having not everything I wanted at my house, and they could not believe I was buying two pairs of shoes and how much it meant to them. And yet, two pairs of shoes, like, hello, I had a closet full. I mean, you don't think about what these kids
You didn't have 1,000 pairs of
That's
shoes.
That's right, okay? But they thought it was the coolest thing. They got two pairs of shoes. And so some of these kids, through these divorces and whatever else happens, the parents aren't even thinking about basic needs. I'm not saying that Larry and his ex-wife was ever bad parents. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying at their situation, at their time, when all this was going on, and I was entering into the
equation.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened. And I was just to this day, I'll just never forget it, you know. But there's times with each one of those boys that I'll never forget either, that are just great times. And hopefully in the future, there'll be more great times. I mean, that's what we're all looking forward to, right?
Yeah.
But
I think blended families,
yeah,
personally, I think that it builds character in
yes,
each
it
and
does.
every person.
Yes, it does.
I really do.
I think in people, a blended family, if you are not mature and accepting, it can damage you. You can let it damage you because
Yes.
there's more people stressing you and you're not learning.
Yeah.
But if you're smart, if you're mature, if you learn from it, you have more parents now.
Yeah.
You have more people to learn from.
And you seen that movie called, I
Probably
think
not.
it's called The Other Woman.
No, I haven't seen it, but I'll go see it.
Oh,
No.
okay. I've never seen it. I used to work in a Target movie section. I
Oh,
used to
my
stock it all the
goodness.
time. I
What's her
remember
name?
I forget. I
Julia
remember.
Roberts.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever seen
No,
it?
I'm
No.
going to look it up. I'm
Okay,
going to watch it today,
you
though.
should watch that because that's a blended family.
Mm-hmm.
They got a divorce because the husband cheated. She had children. It's exactly what you're discussing because she was mean to this woman, but Julia Roberts just played her part, and they
Right.
ended up in the end becoming friends because the parent, the real mom, it's a really good movie, but the real mom ends up dying from cancer. But the stepmom is the one that helped the kids, helped her, helped the family come together. And it was some of the things that you're talking about. But the movie was really, really good.
One of the series that I'm going to be talking about is
Oh,
what?
I think you're literally talking about Stepmom.
Stepmom.
Stepmom. Oh, yes, I have
No,
seen
the-
that years
Stepmom.
ago.
I was about to
Yes,
say no.
yes,
The
yes.
the other woman is do not for the audience.
They're woman.
It is it's a comedy movie about cheating. Don't watch that
Oh,
one.
yeah. Don't watch that one
No,
then.
don't watch that
so,
one.
it's stepmom then.
And getting revenge
Yeah.
on the guy.
But
There
I
you go.
really, really
Hey,
love
I
that
don't
one
know.
too.
That
I
might
love
be
that one
good.
too.
There you go.
That one was funny too. That one was with
was terrible.
Cameron Diaz.
Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, that was hilarious. You know what? I watch that movie sometimes when I'm sad because I laugh so hard throughout the whole movie. And so when you have movies like that, you want to keep them. You want to keep them in your,
Yeah. And
Yeah.
reflect. And there's
Yeah.
times when we all have hard times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the series that's going to talk about, because Tim might experience this. No, I'm just kidding. Tim. The daughter-in-laws, when they grow up and they get married. So when my kids all left my house, they were God-fearing, self-sufficient individuals who all married very spiritual women. Okay. Now, what does that do to the family dynamic? And I really want to explore that in a whole series. I mean, it's going to be part of this series, but it's going to be a book because it's very interesting because some of these spiritual women, they come from very spiritual backgrounds where they haven't had a broken family. They don't even understand step parenting. They don't understand adoption. They don't understand fostering. Nothing. It's just amazing to me that there's not more information out there to help people cope with all these different problems that, and I don't want to say they're problems because I love them all, okay?
Yeah.
But I mean the different issues that come up, right?
Yeah.
Issues. And they don't understand. And so it causes another thing. Okay. So really with Chosen Love, it's the people who show up. And that's the message I want to send to my kids.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure my kids are sitting there wondering, I wonder what she's going to say. I really don't want to talk about my family.
Yeah.
You know, what I want to do is give people the tools to be able to cope with whatever they're going through.
Well, while you're doing your series, make sure you do a series on maturity.
Yes, I will.
Because
Yeah.
I'll
I
do a
think
whole
that-
chapter on that.
yeah, because I think that Tim touched on it. I touched on it. I think that that's where, they can begin to show up when that maturity is there and put their views to the side. Like, I see, like when you're like laying and searching the internet, you see all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't spend a lot of time because I don't have enough time to do it, but I seen a video one where the man, he got married, but his mom, he had his mom, and his mom was sitting in the front, but the wife is having a fit. She shouldn't sit in the front. I'm your main girl, so I should be in the front. And I'm sitting here
Oh, I
looking
think
at
I
the
heard
video.
about this. I think I saw this one. Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
looking at the video like, okay, me and my husband's been married for 24 years.
What
His
always
mom
on my-
comes here.
Yeah.
His mom sits in the front. That's
Right.
respect.
Yeah.
She's
I believe
elderly.
in respect.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And you let her sit up
Mhm.
front because that's just respect. And number one, number two, it's easier to get in the front than it is the back. And his mom is older, and I do it for my mom too. You know, it's just that and I see that. Or a woman is watching the other parent's kid, because she's married the guy, and she's eating, but she didn't feed the kids because it's not her kid.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I ordered
that's
and I paid for my food. If you wanted him to eat, she should have brought food. And it's like, but see, now my daughter, I want to say this, she's not with her kid's father, but when she sends one of her sons, she does buy food for him. And the reason why is because he's allergic to everything.
Yeah.
He can't eat everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So she gives him his, unless he's going to his grandma or whatever, she doesn't worry about it. But if he's going with his dad and his dad's girlfriend, she says, no, I'm packing his food. Don't let him eat anything but this.
See, and that's love and that's respect, right?
Yeah.
And another thing that I talk about in the book is, and I think that I'm even guilty of this, okay? And I hear so many women my age or a little bit younger than me. So in their 60s, maybe 70s, maybe 50s. I hear this all the time. I would never marry anyone with children. Okay, I have said this 100 times. That is the most damning thing you can ever say. And the reason why is because what you're saying is, I don't love my husband. I don't love our kid. I don't love these kids. In the moment that you say it, you're talking with usually your friends, and you're very frustrated about a situation. You've got to retrain your mind not to say that, not to have that regret. Now, I understand if you get a divorce or anything, but in my case, I'm happily married. I'm going on 42 years, 43 years. Yeah. And I don't regret 1 second with my husband. No matter what we've gone through, I don't regret it. And we've had a really good marriage. And I don't regret the kids. I don't really regret any of it. But there's just always 1 minute when your heart's aching. And I think this is so true with women in particular. So I'm really urging women, don't say that. You really don't mean it. And if the kids hear it, it has an impact. I don't care if they're adults. I don't care if they're little kids. If they hear that, that's like when my mom said, you wouldn't even be born if abortion was legal.
I heard that a lot when I was younger, too.
Okay, like that's harsh.
Like some of my friends heard that a lot.
Yeah, that is
I mean,
harsh.
that's like, whoa.
You know,
okay.
that was harsh.
Uh-huh.
You know, I never heard that because my mom wouldn't have done it anyway.
Right. But I mean, you got to think
Yeah.
about what you're saying. So
Yeah.
it all comes down
I think
to
that comes with, again, with maturity.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
The thing you guys are mentioning about maturity too, about like, I would never say that too. Like, I would warn my, like, when I was growing up and my guy friends like, oh, I'm into a girl, but you know, she had a previous marriage, she had kids and stuff like that. And I would say, don't say never. Don't say no. If the person's a really good person, they're a good parent, they know how to take care of, they've figured out that situation. Yeah. That's good. It's good to be aware that there are going to be hurdles. There are going to be things that you need to be mature enough to handle. And if you're not ready to take care of that situation, it's not her fault. That's your fault. Right. You're not mature enough to do that. Right. Don't say, I won't date someone because they have kids. Say, I'm not ready to date someone who has kids.
That's better.
That's a better way to say that.
It is.
It's like, because you're not at that emotional maturity level. Yeah. But another thing is, people like to draw lines when they go, I'll feed my kids or I'll feed my husband. I'm not going to feed their kid, though, because that's not my kid. That thing to me is like, well, then you're not accepting them. Because, and I've always said this, like, it's when you're dating someone, when you're going to get married, when you marry someone, you don't marry the family, but you kind of do. You don't take, their baggage is not your baggage, but it kind of is now. You have to accept it. And the second you go, Yeah, I love my significant other, but that part of them, that trauma that they have, I don't pay attention. I ignore that. I don't want to deal with that. I was like, then you don't accept your partner.
You don't. Yeah.
If you say no to their kid, you say no to their dad, you say no to their your parent-in-law.
Yeah.
You're saying no to them, and that's going to cause problems in the marriage later on because they're going to go, why do you always mean to my child, my husband, my ex-husband, my parent? They're part of my life.
Yeah.
You're rejecting me by rejecting them.
Yeah.
And they don't think that. They go, no, I want you. I don't want that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
That's kind of
okay, guys.
Okay, I got one more thing.
I know.
We're getting really
I know.
We're getting too deep.
Okay, but
now,
I want to say one thing.
So, okay, go ahead real quick.
So then you've got a yours, a mine, and then the parents get married and they have another set of kids. Mm-hmm. And then all these kids are supposed to blend. Unfortunately, they don't always blend, okay, because there are children in one marriage and then blended in that marriage. Then they're blended in ours, okay, and maybe yours too, okay. And then what happens, I've seen it in my own marriage and in my own life, but I've been reading a lot about this because this is an issue now. Some of these kids don't accept the other kids and they actually bully them. Yeah. And it's really, really sad. And I didn't really address that in the first book. I will be addressing that more in the second book because that in itself is very emotional because these kids feel rejection from all different aspects. So I just don't want it to think it's just about families. I really want to get into the different dynamics that play in and how to fix them, how to correct them, right? And how to include these kids. Include these kids. It's all about family, right? At the end of the day, it's all about family.
Yeah. Well, that is a good way, because guess what? We don't win over again.
Every week.
I love it. The cool part about this is that we're going to have you come back because I just got the book today and I want to have an opportunity to read it because I think that once I read it, I can develop, more questionings that's going to show you how this book is going to empower you as a parent, a step parent, adopted parent. I think that those are things that we really, really need to have a conversation about. And it's too bad that I just got it today.
No, and I'm so sorry.
You got some time.
Hey, I got it.
It was a trademark.
I'm happy.
It was the trademark office's fault. Okay, no, it was. Okay,
but
honestly.
It's okay. It is fine because guess what? We will have you back again. I will reach out to you and bring you back so that we can. I think that this is a cool subject, and I think that it's a subject that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be, people need to be vocal about it, and without, without the yelling and screaming and all of that. Because like you said, he's calm, but with me, my voice carries. And a lot of times when, especially if I get passionate and my voice raises, people say, why are you yelling? Look, I lived in a house of 9-10 kids. Sometimes that's the only time you got to be heard is when you spoke loudly.
Yep.
So there's a difference and people need to understand that. Let's have that, another conversation and touch on other things that can help them and their journeys of being whichever one that they fall into.
Right. And the grandparents. Let's not forget all the grandparents right now who are raising their grandchildren. I mean, that in itself is a whole big dynamic.
Yeah.
And I don't want to leave them out because they are aged and, so yes, please have me back and I'll have book 2 done. I'm already working on book 2.
Okay.
And so I'll let you know when it's done and I'll wait until it's back from the printers so you can read it.
Yes. Well, this time we're going to have you back after I read it.
Okay.
To have,
great.
We'll make the session more about, like different chapters and me asking questions about that. But before we end today, can you let the people know where they can buy the book, where they can find you? And if they have any questions and they want to add to your second book and give you ideas on things to discuss to help them, how do they do that?
So the book is chosenlove dynamics.com. The book won't be ready to be on sale or for download until Monday, September 8th. So we're just a few days away. Very excited. The website is up, but if you go there, but we do have a wait list. So you can put your email in, and then we'll notify you on Sunday that the book is being downloaded and ready. And you can buy it, download it, and purchase the paperback. However you want. Some people like the paperback because 70% of people still like to read a book. I still like to read a book. Okay,
Yeah.
I love electronics. Okay,
Yeah.
and I love the Kindle and
It's
everything.
different when you have the real book.
It is. It is. It really is. And so we decided to do it both ways. Okay, then I'm going to drop little 50-page downloads that's an extension to the book because it's come to my attention or people have done something. Also, I'm going to have a community on school. We're going to have coffee hour and happy hour on the school platform, but that's all on the website. You can always reach me at webcoachlive.com. And I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as Web Coach Live. I'm on every social media platform as Web Coach Live. So you can always reach out to Web Coach Live and say, hey, I want Chosen Love. I'm actually putting it up there. But really, I want to promote Chosen Love Dynamics on its own pages. It has all its own social media now. And we got over 1,000 hits yesterday.
Oh,
Wow.
On TikTok. I haven't even looked anywhere else because I was so excited about TikTok. Okay. And my husband's doing all the graphics, and except it's really interesting because he doesn't know about social media, and he doesn't know he knows about branding from our own businesses, but how branding has changed so much. And so I'm like, no, we can't say that. We have to keep writing these colors and everything. So it's really interesting to watch the whole thing unfold. So we'll be talking about that too, how the business is going with
Well, now we'll get updated on the business now that we've introduced the book. That'll be fun.
So I'm really excited. So please reach out to me. Let me know. Write in and tell me how you're feeling because everything's confidential. And I will respond to you. I do not have an assistant. So, even if I have to spend 8 hours responding, I want to respond to these people.
wow.
They matter to me.
See, guys, you matter. So make sure that you go and read the book, download it, support it, and also make sure that you.
And there's another friend. It's all good.
So and make sure that you guys support and this I thank you for tuning in for another episode. And as I always say, if you have a story and you want to come here and sit on this couch and let the world know your experience as an entrepreneur and your experience, even if it's something good or bad, your story, your education, all of that is nothing if it's not shared. So it's important for us to start sharing our knowledge and our stories so that it can help the next entrepreneur, on their journey. So make sure that you always hit the follow button and then tune in next week for another episode of Business Fumbles. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having me. I love both of you so much.